Morning, guys. 7:52 in the morning, West Coast time. CNN online right now. So now they got people on the ground. He's getting off the air so he can actually take a breath. It's April 5th, 2024 to everyone out there. West Coast, Just looking at the reports of back east having a 4.7 to 4.8, depending on which particular Richter is right on this one. But they have felt it a widespread area between Philadelphia, New York, and apparently Scranton, maybe, Reading. It was a hell of a shaker. 4.7. That'll catch you a little bit of attention right there. I mean, yeah, I'm calling from the West Coast. Now, this is Roseman, California. This is not like dealing with Taiwan or Japan. But to us, even a 4.7 is freaky enough anyway, especially in an area that is not prone to earthquakes all that much. They do have fault lines, but they're not all that active. So, USGS is going to be having a field day over this one, not to mention every other news station in the area, national and local. So some of the people are like, what was that? 4.7 is pretty nerve rattling. The New York office is having a conniption fit, and you got one of the reporters just like, I gotta tell you about this one. I gotta go nuts. I gotta go nuts. So while MSNBC is having a conniption fit over this one, they're talking to people in New York about what happened. They're trying to talk to the meteorologists. Maybe some of them are geologically knowledgeable, I hope. But a 4.7 in that kind of area is not normal. Not panicking, but not normal. Now, if they actually had maybe about a 6 or 7, that would be panicking. But that is understandable that we do have continental crust moving left and right, folding, bending, blending, and other stuff being made. This could have been a burp somewhere. I'm not a geologist, but a 4.7. If there was fracking going on, shifting of the sediments, maybe fluid displacement, very much rapidly, I think could possibly cause that kind of situation. But it's centered about 1 kilometer below. I'm not quite sure how deep fracking would go. If it isn't fracking, then we're talking about a shifting of a fault line over there that they're going to have to take a look and see what's going on. We'll know about it in about a few hours. Meanwhile, back here on the West Coast, we're watching. We're watching. As the other news organizations are switching to one section or another, they're trying to get as much information as they possibly can. And the ones in New York are having conniption fits because they hadn't been through an earthquake in a hell of a long while. They've seen earthquakes from other places and they can react to that and get people's reactions by going through it themselves. Yeah, they're rattled. One guy I was watching on CNN was Larry Carroll. Actually, yeah. Carroll was this guy's name. And he's native. He's native California. So it's like, yeah, well, this is kind of new and this is kind of interesting out here. But he knew, and he's comfortable. Not completely having a panic attack, unless, of course, we are dealing with buildings that are not structurally sound or equipped to deal with that kind of situation. High wind, they're one thing. I mean, they'll get high winds in that area. They'll get snowstorms. They'll get rainstorms. They have to deal with that kind of contention. But now they got to deal with an earthquake. So it's going to take the geologists a while just to figure out, was this a fault line? Was this a shifting of materials drastically? Was there any elevation happening, which could have meant possible? I'm not quite sure if it's probable, but possible upwelling of ground. If it isn't, well, but this is an isolated. If they had a consistent pattern, maybe irregular in interval, but of a consistent pattern of earthquakes, then that I would be concerned about. But an isolated, this is a burp. This is a geologic burp. But for the East Coasters, they're freaked because they don't get that much. They don't get that much activity because there's nothing happening in the area unless there's something shifted in the ground. And maybe there are certain pressure points in there that haven't been exercised. This could be one of them. So we won't know much until the geologists get into the area, take a look, make the determination, and then reassure people out there by confusing the living crap out of them with information. I'm not laughing at this. We go through the same damn stuff all the time when we happen to get anything like this, a 4.8. Yeah, it'll catch our attention. And then we contact Caltech and we contact the USGS offices out here, find out our local people who's got information about the geology of the area, and it's going to be up to the field geologists to go out there to really take a look at the situation. Now, the 4.8 is, it'll catch your attention. If the buildings are structurally sound enough, there won't be that much or hardly any damage. Maybe a bit of cracked plaster or something. But not collapsing of buildings like back in Taiwan or Japan or Alaska or any of the places going to get in the world that much level of activity. A 4.8 to me is nothing. Unless, of course, your buildings are not structurally sound, unless they're not retrofitted for earthquakes. But they can't retrofit the earthquakes out there because they don't get any out there. They won't do it. And it's not feasible because nobody gets earthquakes out there. Who ever suspected that we get a 4.8? But guess what? You guys got a 4.8. And there's a population of, a bit weak, a bit light, and that caught their attention. They're putting up a shake-related map here. Population, how much of the population actually felt the thing. Closer to the edge, you had about 9,000. A little further away, or actually the furthest away is about 18 million in the wider region. But closer, 9,000 really felt the shaking. What would it sound like or feel like out here in the West Coast, out here in California? Let's just say if Antelope Valley, California actually had a shaker. A 4.8 would catch our attention on that one. It wouldn't panic the whole entire population, but it would catch everyone else's attention at this point. Because then the geologists are going to try to figure out what the hell's going on. If it's closer to the San Andreas fault line, that's the problem. If it's further away, a slightly unseen, unknown, or maybe an inactive fault line just went active. That would be a little bit of a concern. But for the rest of these people out here, for the younger generation, they hadn't felt it unless they've been close to earthquake centers and actually felt a lot of shaking. New York isn't one of them. New Jersey isn't one of them. Philly isn't one of them. D.C. isn't one. Oh, D.C. had one about 10 years ago, they said. But these days, it's just nothing. But everybody else who felt the 4.8, that's something. And looking at the geology, the geographic of the area, they got mountain ranges. I need to get into Google Maps. So, and if anybody has a map program, I usually go by Google Maps or Google Earth. I know Google Earth is ancient, however, Google Maps somewhat reliable. I said somewhat. So, switching on Google Maps. And I can take a look at my own area. Wow, isn't that nice? Let me get at the terrain. And I'm going to scroll until I get the West Coast, and then I can maneuver my cursor to the East Coast and see a hot spot. So let's go scrolling along, shall we? scrolling along on the beautiful brain. Hell with it. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to terrain instead of the usual satellite. Because I need to see this damn thing. Here we go. Elevation populations. Yeah, tell me about the damn mountainside we got in the area. Okay, so if we're talking about... Yeah, there's the deformities out there, that's for damn sure. Okay, buildups of the mountains. Okay, let's see the satellite image. Take a look. Yeah. Alright. I need... Too bad we didn't have terrain. Oh, terrain set. Okay, slightly elevated. I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Try default. And... terrain? Or just satellite? I prefer satellite. So you do have elevations. There are mountains. Of course, naturally, there are mountains, Catskills, and a bit of uplift. A lot of uplift, which means the mountains go up, especially when you have force pushed against them. And looking at the ocean range, these people do realize that they are part of a spreading center. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge goes from north to south. And there are geologic hotspots somewhere in there. So the pushing of the continental edge there, it's pushing. So maybe there was a little bit of a burp happening over there. I don't know. But if it's not consistent, if it's not just on a regular or irregular basis, like a few days or a few weeks apart, one or let's see, on the magnitudes of one or two, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's barely noticeable to anybody. But a 4.8, yeah, that'll catch your attention. So I would think that as just the shifting of the ground, shifting of the mountains over there. If they happen to find some elevation, if they happen to find in the area, if there was a little bit of uplift, ground going, okay, then we've got shifting either of the continental crust or fault line. But if it's more and they have more earthquakes in the area, I would be on alert. So in the meantime, let's not panic yet. Let's just deal with science as it is and let the scientists deal with what they've got. Till that point,